And welcome back. Earlier, we heard from the private sector on hiring and grooming the best tech talents in Asia. With this next session, we'll get insights from the public sector on how governments are working to address the talent and skills gap globally. Moderating the panel of policymakers is Dia Markova, Senior Director at FTI Consulting. And joining the panel are Deputy Commissioner for Digital Financial Innovation at OJK, Bapak Imansyah, and Australian Securities and Investments Commission Commissioner, Cathie Armour. Let's now join the panel of policymakers for a public sector view on addressing the talent and skills gap.
Good morning, everyone. Well, good morning from Bulgaria. Good afternoon for those of you joining us from other parts in the world, or maybe good evening to those in the States, still awake in the States. My name is Dia Markova. I'm a Senior Director at FTI Consulting, normally based out of Brussels, but based out of home these days, like all of us. It's my pleasure to have this panel at the tail end of the FinTech Festival, Day 5. We've heard a lot about what a boost to digital the pandemic has given this year, but also the steady march on of sustainability to the top of the regulators' agenda. So that would have an implications on how regulators do their job and the kind of skills gaps that they see within their own organizations as well as within their industry. So I am joined from 2 points of view, from Australia and Indonesia today. And without further ado, I'd like to pass on to Cathie Armour to, first of all, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and the area of ASIC, the Australia Securities and Investments Commission, that you're responsible for.
Okay, thanks very much. So for those who don't know, the Australian Securities and is corporate, financial services, financial market, consumer credit regulator in Australia. And there's I'm one of a leadership group that's responsible for the operations of the entire organisation. We see our role very much as one of dual purpose in Australia. And time there isn't misconception that consumers' interests reflected in the way our markets operate and that our markets operate. So from our perspective, we've been keen support financial technology for some time. We created about 5 years where we do provide new startups financial technology with one-on-one on how they operate in the market. We also have a plan.
I think maybe back. Let's hand over the conversation to you until Cathie kind of comes back online. It seems so. Good evening, good afternoon to you in Jakarta. Would love to first understand the kind of what's keeping it busy on a daily basis at the OJK. I think that's a good reminder of something that everybody has experienced this year. Is this very moment.
Yeah. So you can hear me now, right?
Yes,
okay.
I was going to say if there's something that brings us all together this year, wherever in the world you are, is this very situation where someone is on mute. Yes. So I have to ask you to start again on my question of what your responsibilities are.
Yes, thank you. So I think I start with the just to introduce the OJK. It's actually very much quite different from the other supervisory authorities in the regions. You may compare with APRA, Australia, or CBIRC of China, as well as the Japan FSA, because under the OJK, we have the mandate to oversee bank, non-bank financial institution, as well as the capital market. So ASIC in particular for Australia is just only mandating for oversee the capital market. But here in Indonesia, we oversee the three sectors within OJK, all including as well. In addition to that is how we are improving the standard for education and customer protection. So it's quite a wide range of duty for OJK. And OJK is established since 2013. It's quite new, but it's something is transferring all the mandate coming from the previous institutions now under one OJK. The mandate as prevail within the OJK law 2013. So, and to myself, it's actually I'm currently attached to the OJK Institute. This is the mandate is in charge for education for the financial sector and also doing some research, and also for the digital finance, which is it's like a special mandate as well attached to OJK to again how we are accommodating the new trend on how these digital transformations into digital transaction within the financial sector. So it's we have one what we call is a regulatory sandbox within this digital finance, and we do our best to do something like a preliminary assessment for all these digital innovation. So within Indonesia, so it goes to OJK. Although we do realize that in terms of how we see the progress of the digital innovations within in Indonesia, it's something that we have to share the mandate as well with the government, in particular with the Minister of Finance, as well as with the Central Bank, Bank Indonesia, and other ministries as well. So I think this is something that we have to collaborate on a national basis, how we can accommodate the development of these digital or the fintechs within Indonesia. So previously I was engaged with the financial stability issues, with the surveillance as well as the international affairs. So something that it's quite normal that every certain years a particular staff must move to other sectors. So it's something that we have to enhance the knowledge, the insight, and the perspective just to come up with the more or this comprehensive view when we see particular issues within the financial sector here in Indonesia. So it's just like a brief introduction coming from myself, but that is OJK and myself as well. My daily activities in particular, I'm now engaged with the digital finance issues in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. So we have just very little time actually to get a lot of questions on this panel. But before we go to the crux of the talent conversation, I wanted to get a sense of the impact of digital, both on your work as regulators and on your markets in 2020. So I'll hand over to Cathie. This year, Australia has dealt not only with the pandemic, but you also came with a kind of massive sustainability climate issue with your fires. So from a capital markets perspective, how have you seen kind of digital finance impact your sector and respectively impact your work?
Well, when you think about it, Australia is a very open economy. We're really interested in supporting capital to facilitate our economy. And at the same time, we have the fourth largest retirement funds in the world, so we're a world investor as well. We've got great conditions for digitisation, and in fact, that what we've seen, and I think like many countries with the pandemic, has been an acceleration of digitisation. We have a smartphone penetration of around 92% of our population. We have before the pandemic, our internet penetration was 88% of Australians accessing the internet, and around 80% of Australians have access to a laptop. So those conditions, combined with a banking sector where mobile banking was well over 50% of the population accessing mobile banking, has meant that we've actually coped reasonably well with having this rapid acceleration. And from our perspective, as a regulator, one of the things that we were most keen to ensure was that actually firms were able to operate remotely and effectively, and where we could, that we supported that exercise, that we were quick with the sort of relief that was needed to ensure that digital activities like, for example, company general meetings could occur, that there wasn't a need for physical meetings, there wasn't a need for wet signatures on documents, those sorts of things. We were very, very happy to facilitate those sorts of things. And our markets have for a long time been very, very digitally based. So from our perspective, we're really impressed with how the economy adjusted. There are two areas of particular interest from our perspective. One has been cyber security and the prevalence of cyber-related scams, just something that's been an issue and a concern. And the other was just actually how effective our capital markets, particularly our equity capital markets, were able to swing into action and support company balance sheets when there was a need to where there was a lot of market volatility, and those companies very impacted by the pandemic needed to raise funds quickly and efficiently. And we raised nearly, I think the figure is close to 42 billion Australian dollars on our markets over the period of time in secondary raising. So they were sort of two hallmarks. And then probably one last thing that I'll mention, because I know we're running out of time, is we also noticed in our market a fundamental change to participation by retail investors in the market. We found that typically in equity markets, about 11% of volume in Australia has been retail. Now at the end of the year, it looks like it's stabilised at about 16%. So it was a significant uptick. And we found that also in the more complex products, so contracts for differences, those sorts of products. There was much more participation, and the participation seemed to grow irrespective of age. So for the demographics, it looks like there were quite a number of young investors coming to the market, which I think bodes well, if you like, for our capital markets.
Cathie, I want to follow up on what you say before we go back to PAC. So you talked about the risk of cyber on the rise, and you've talked about at the same time retail investor participation in capital markets. What does that mean for, one, the skills that you need as a regulator in order to supervise that risk or contain it, and two, increasing of financial literacy in the investment spectrum on your market?
Yes, so they're both things that we've really been concentrating a lot on this year. In fact, on the financial, we had sort of had two events that really focused our concentration. With the natural disasters we had at the start of the year, we actually put a lot of work into getting emergency information out to consumers through our own electronic channels about the sorts of ways they should thinking about their insurance needs and where they could get help. What are the sort of scams that you might typically see in that situation? And then similarly, we have done the same thing with the rise of what we're seeing scam activity in financial services over the pandemic period. So financial capability has been a very big focus, and we work hard at pushing out messages across the community through various distribution networks, and we have our own website and that we use as our base for that information. So that's one side, but the second side, you're quite right. We have had to build our capability, particularly our capability at understanding how messages are received across social networks, understanding and being able to search and access the dark web, for example, so that we are in a position that we can assure market integrity in this much more digitalised world.
Thanks, Cathie. PAC, I'm sure you're going to tell us how much more activity there has been in Indonesia coming online in 2020 from your entrepreneurs and from your incumbents. But what has that meant for, for bringing consumers, for adoption, for literacy, and also for the skills that you have needed on your team at the OJK in order to both support and risk manage all that activity?
Yes, thank you. It's a very relevant issues. I think in particular with OJK. Well, I just just want to echo what Cathie mentions before, that I think when you look with the progress and also a very rapid development of the use of internet or the use of technology within the financial sector. So we see that something is very huge coming to us, in terms of the number of the company or the platforms in place, as well as the amount, the value of the transaction itself. So I think to my knowledge, I have the figure that I think up to second term of the second quarter of this year, the number of these fintech in Indonesia already hit 362, which is I think with the most of the platform in the form of P2P lendings, and I think equity crowdfunding as well there. And just to share that very recently, just to make more possible for retail investors to also to participate within this platform, is actually OJK has issued a new regulation, which is a securities crowdfunding, not equity crowdfunding, which is inviting retail investors to also to join the industry. And then in terms of the number of the transaction, the value is also increasing very quite significantly. So I think that's really the benefit that we can have, because it's like features that not have been can be provided by the incumbents, because we can see as well for the P2P, they are not necessary to come with a physical presence in certain areas, because Indonesia is a archipelago, right? So it's something that if you want to utilize the IT, now is the time, because for the incumbent, if they have to set a physical presence, it will be like another operational cost they have to pay. So, but within the fintech, it's not an issue, right? They just use the technologies. We also see the increased number of transactions, as well as the investor, as well as the borrower, the number, and also the value of the transactions for the P2P very recently, and also the number of like what is similar to banking, like non-performing loan, is also quite low. So it's something that's very benefit. But on the other side, you're right. So we are facing a new challenge for the people, how they are using in a way that a very wise way to use this platform, and they have to understand the consequences if they are accessing this platform, or they are using this the offer for loan from this fintech. They have to understand that this is the issue of the literacy, right? Because in our case, there's a lot of cases, the platform, in particular, that the platform not really registered with the OJK, they have a very wide access, not only for the phone number, but also for the photo within the gadget, within your mobile phone. So if there's something bad happen, they just go to this all the number within that SIM card, and also the photo as well, and also, so they are like bullying the data. So they're something that they're doing, misconduct with this, all access to this. So it's something that Cathie mentioned, that the literacy for the people, okay, we are doing very good in terms of the inclusions, but how with the literacy, that's something that we have to do. It's a new challenge for us. All regulators, I think, do the same things, facing the same challenge. That's coming from the public, but for us as well, it's something that, what happened with us is still struggling the issue who will supervise this platform. Because OJK is in particular, according to the law, only engage with the financial institutions. So the question is, whether this platform, the fintech platform, is a financial institutions or not. So they have to, because what happened is, if you are doing something that not really in our mandate, so it's according to the law, you are not entitled to do that such thing, right? So,
Yeah.
but
Actually, Pak, on that, we have 55 seconds left, and I have a audience questions. But actually, how do you as organizations handle talent, so JK and ASIC respectively? So I need your 15-second answers, Cathie first and Pak second, or your top 2 skills that you're looking for when you hire someone on your teams. We'll go with Cathie first.
So what we're looking for is agility and curiosity. We've been building our capabilities in data science, psychologists in particular, and obviously we're keen to have people with IT skills as well.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Cathie. Pak, you have 10 seconds to answer my question.
Similar to Cathie, we do need somebody that really understand how to utilize the data, right? You know how we are doing good things on building the subtech. It's actually based on the data. So we are inviting people that really understand about how to utilize the data in very optimum way within the OJK. So what we are looking for is somebody that really have a very deep perspective, deep knowledge on how you're using the data. Because data coming from banks, data coming from the non-bank financial institution, as well as capital market, all within the OJK. But how to utilize that, and then also data coming from the fintech platform. So it's something that at the end, we have to come up with like a data warehouse within the OJK, and then we can utilize that very much in the benefit for OJK and as well the industry as well.
Thank you both. Thank you both. I'm hoping that the talent emails for your organizations get flooded with data scientists as a result of this panel. Generally, best of luck for your priorities in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dear, thank you for leading that discussion, bringing in Cathie from Australia and Imansyah from Indonesia, talking about something that's very important in today's digital transformation landscape, the issue of talent and skills gap.